We are at the 2011 Busan Gyeongnam Ko-TESOL Conference, speaking with presenter Aaron Jolly. Hello, Aaron.
Hello, Jeff. Hello, everybody.
And presentation attendee Son Young-hoon. So the name of your presentation, Aaron, was Key Ingredients for a Young Learner Class! Exclamation point. Now, I've known you a bit, for about a year, and you strike me as someone who lives with an exclamation point. Inside the classroom, outside the classroom. My first question is the exclamation point one of the key ingredients?
Absolutely. And it's behind all of the other 7. So it's the 8th ingredient that you put into all the other ingredients, I think.
So what are the ingredients?
You asked me to memorize my presentation? Yes. Okay, what are the key ingredients? I'll see how I go. The key ingredients are, can they be in any order?
Sure.
Firstly,
reverse alphabetical.
Reverse alphabetical. Firstly, the class has to be fun. It has to be fun and interesting. There needs to be laughter. So you need to at least laugh once in every class. Everybody laughs somehow. Are you familiar with the Laughter Club idea? John Cleese, the Monty Python, A Fish Called Wonder, a comedian guy.
Yeah, I
Laughter Club. The idea that laughter is the best medicine. Everybody laughs together. Laughter is the universal language. If you have people from different countries in your class, laughing together unites them. If you have different language levels of language learner, different learning styles, all these differences in your classroom, but actually if you analyze laughter, most people's laughter, with a few unusual exceptions, like me, I have a pretty out there laugh, but the general idea is that we all laugh, and we laugh in a very similar way, and laughing together lowers affective filters and makes people relax.
And I think that's something that teachers clue into pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
We all feel a little bit good when we get laughs in a classroom. It means they're paying attention a little bit, and it certainly eases the tension. All right, that's one ingredient.
Another ingredient is connected to that. It's lowering affective filters, which means that there are the various ways you can do that. Affective filters, Krashen and other language learning theorists talk about the idea that there are things that interfere with language learning that aren't necessarily connected to the actual process of learning itself. Like, for example, the classroom's too hot. The students are scared of some aspect of the actual class environment.
They're scared of you, the foreigner.
Exactly. They're scared of the teacher. They're scared of each other. Mostly it's related to fear. And it might also be related to boredom, which means, are your materials high interest enough to stimulate your students to get past those affective filters and engage with the materials, or forget that they might be a little bit scared and do something?
Now, these are specifically for young learners, but I assume they apply to most ELT environments.
Sure. There are some specific ones to young learners, but most of them can be applied to anyone.
Now, let's see, how quickly can you run down the last 5?
Okay, so the classroom needs to be wired. You need to be able to have homework or in-class activities that somehow use technology or call or use the internet. Okay, another one, I said fun, I said effective filters. Another one is you need to use Paul Nation's 25% rule, which means that there needs to be 25% of meaningful input, 25% of language-focused learning, 25% of meaning-focused output, and 25% of fluency activities.
Regardless of level?
Regardless of level, if you are a nationite, if you really believe in Paul Nation's ideas, then it doesn't matter about the level.
If you're teaching first graders, can you expect 25% fluency activities?
If you use scaffolded materials and you use things called speaking frames, and you use mingling activities, and you use...
With really young learners?
Sure, I do it with 5-year-olds.
Can you give an example of these kinds of fluency activities for young learners?
Sure. If the students are using a textbook, for example, then you create some kind of activity where they recycle the same language. So, for example, at the lowest level, it's like, I like... You do an activity in the course book might be using the word like. It might be I like certain colors. And the course book focuses only on colors. Then as a review activity, you use the same language like I like, and you do the same activity talking about animals that you like, or foods that you like, or the people in your family who you like the most. So you find ways to recycle even the simplest language. You can recycle with different activities if you think about it. So absolutely. In fact, I do this with 5- and 6-year-olds, and I have them videotape each other with my phone while they do it. Right? Fluency activities, sometimes it's about performance, where they've actually memorized a dialogue, and the classroom activity, and a lot of course books are focused on this, really, it's about role play. So if role play is actually what you do with dialogues, then you need to practice the role play. That's a fluency activity. Sometimes it's about just repeating what you've already done in different ways, in different contexts, with different motivation caused by using, for example, technology. I use my cell phone, and I teach the students how to videotape each other in a small class with my phone, and that's a reward for good behavior. And then I let them watch back their video, or I put the video onto my secret blog that other people can't access, that my students and parents might use, and let the parents see it. And so their fluency activities become part of their actual presentation performance as well.
Okay.
So in every single situation, you can find a way to use Nation's 25%
So
rule.
far, we've got fun, effective filter, call, and Paul Nation's 25, 25, 25, 25.
That's it.
We got 3 more.
3 more. Did I say there was 8? Did I? Okay, the other one is the teacher needs to be happy and inspired. That's a very important one, and that's the first one that I talk about, which means if you're unhappy, unhealthy, unwell, then you need to do some meditation, dude. You need to get healthy, get fit, try to feel good. And if you don't feel very good at a particular time, then you need to get help. I think a lot of teachers are not in touch with the fact that life is hard and teaching is very hard, and you go through periods where you go into the classroom not feeling well. You might go into the classroom hungover, for example, and feeling sorry for yourself at the same time. So if you're a reflective teacher, then you need to reflect on that. And that's another one of my key ingredients, reflective teaching.
Nice segue.
Yeah, you need to think about things like the keys, for example, and improve your teaching. What works, what doesn't work. If you go through a period where you're unhappy and you're not inspired and you're not challenging your students and yourself, and things are not working well for you, then you need to find a way to change your environment or do something different and get real, because that's, as a teacher, your responsibility is to get your students to be intrinsically motivated to learn something and be inspired by you. Great teachers change the world. And even in little ways, if you're happy, if you can even just shine that light into your classroom, then your students are learning something from you.
One more and you get the prize.
One more and I get the prize. Adaptation and supplementation. A lot of teaching is about course books. I write course books because I have been in many situations where I have to teach them. I know a lot of teachers are forced to teach books. There are noble people in the field trying to make better course books. And I hope that I fit into that category. But one thing that I do is I go around also giving presentations just about adaptation and supplementation, where I make sure that teachers understand that what's really important, what's most important, in my opinion, is what happens before you open the course book. So the first 5 to 7 minutes or 3 minutes of a classroom, what kind of activities do you use? What schema building things do you build into your class in the beginning to get students stimulated to work with some of the material they're going to work before the lesson happens? That's adaptation. That might be supplementation if you bring extra things into the classroom, whether it's technology, whether it's games, whether it's extensive reading supplements, for example. Those things are really, really important.
Okay.
The other one, I actually missed one somehow.
I thought there were only 7.
I think I
Plus the
added one.
exclamation point.
I think reflective teaching kind of overlaps.
Okay.
I
Just making this up
think
as
the
you
other
go.
one is student-centered classroom. I mean, they're all overlapping. The student-centered classroom. The classroom should be student-centered. And again, the literature says ideal task-based teaching classroom, CLIL classroom, communicative language instruction learning or something like that, CLIL,
I'll take your word
whatever
for
it is, communicative language teaching. The classroom should be 80-20. And I gave a workshop where a teacher was saying, so it's 80% of the teacher and 20% of the students. Oh, I'm okay. In fact, I'm better than that. I'm like 70-30, right? I'm only 70. And actually, it's supposed to be 20-80, like you're 20, buddy. So shut up.
Regardless of topic or...
Again, I actually do practice reflective teaching, which means one of Farrell's ideas is having kind of basically a buddy who comes and actually analyzes you and tells you whether you do walk the walk that you talk. And you got a stopwatch. Teachers talking, time. In the other hand, another stopwatch, students are talking, time. Turns out I'm about 50-50. So what I did with my young learners to force myself to really go closer to 80-20 was I started videotaping my classes while I was teaching. So a lot of the time I'd walk around with a video camera and videotape the activity. Serves a dual purpose. It's kind of a surveillance, kind of Foucauldian kind of set level, and the students feel like they're on film and there's something happening.
Step up their game a little bit.
And also it means I'm not talking because I'm on the video camera. So that's one of the tools that I use to tell myself, hey, create activities that don't need a teacher and move around and observe. And you do need to do a bit of surveillance, especially with young learners. But
All right, there you go. You've got Aaron Jolly's Ingredients to a Young Learners class. Now, Young Hoon, you are a practicing public school teacher.
Right.
What level do you teach? Can you share the mic?
Practicing public school,
What level do you teach? What grades?
including 4, 5, 6th grade. I used to teach. Yeah.
Okay, so elementary school teacher.
Yeah, elementary school.
Of the things that Aaron talked about, what for you seemed, yes, that's very true. I agree. What impressed you the most?
As a perspective of a Korean teacher, Korean English teacher, what would be true or what would be not true?
what's the most useful?
What's
of
the
those
most
things, for
useful?
example? But it could be about truth and not truth. As well.
Yeah. I could say the most important thing as a, teaching an English, whether the Korean teacher or an English teacher, the most important thing is to make students fun. So, yeah. So making classes as funny as possible would be the most important thing. If students doesn't feel fun in terms of their class, they will not listen to whatever the teacher is saying, and then they try not to listen and try not to study, and then they must have think that the English is not cool. Yeah, just I think that most important thing as a teacher is trying to lower their mental barrier, and then so ultimately get them fun, in their English class. And
If we can switch gears a little bit, Aaron, last time we spoke was in Daejeon, shortly after Chris Sorge had passed away, and you had a discussion about Chris, but also about what lies ahead for the Chris Sorge Foundation and other projects. Can you update us a little bit? What's happened on that front?
Sure, I'd be glad to. Anytime to talk about Chris Sorge Foundation is good time. Spirit work. What's happening with the Chris Sorge Foundation?
And I'm sorry, I just can't help thinking, but as we talk about these different ingredients, Chris Sorge seemed to do a lot of this stuff right.
Absolutely. And in the classroom and out of the classroom. In fact, one of the Chris Sorge Foundation posters that we made, which is going to become a T-shirt, was a picture of Chris at a huge pillow fight at KAIST, where he's in the middle, flying in the air, throwing his pillow in the air, and there are 20 students and other professors around him throwing pillows, and then the quote is, "If it's not fun, you're not doing it right." So, I think he definitely walked all of those walks for sure. What's happening with the Chris Sorge Foundation? At the moment, we've expanded the number of members of the Chris Sorge Foundation Facebook to about 85 members now. We've also set up a admin Facebook where we have 16 people who are going to be administrating the foundation, including a number of key collaborators with him on various projects. And we've started communicating internally about how we're going to set up some of the business aspects, like, for example, how are we going, and I say business not in the profit sense, but in the sense of how are we going to manage the foundation, and what are we going to do, what kind of scholarships might we be able to fund, depending on how we do things. So at a practical level, we've started getting serious about working out how we're going to move forward. What else did the foundation do? We support.
Got a domain.
We got a domain name, and we're setting up a PayPal account so we can do fundraising in Canada and in Korea. Another thing on the very practical front, the Chris Sorge Foundation is co-sponsoring 3 all-day workshops with Paul Prybish, who's presenting today, teaching teachers how to integrate Moodle, Second Life, Sloodle, OpenSim, and also using Joomla to build websites, and the idea of teaching your students how to use Joomla to build their own websites, a kind of revolutionary, really amazing student-centered call-based practice that he was doing. So, Paul, we are walking the walk in the Chris Sorge Foundation, because we're going to have a workshop at KAIST and a workshop at KNUE in Jochiwon, the Korea National University of Education. There's going to be at least one workshop in Seoul, and hopefully an all-day workshop in Busan as well, all in September. So every weekend in September something will be happening. Hopefully we'll be able to collaborate with the chapters in some way, maybe in collaboration with an actual chapter workshop. It may be just a joint hosted event. In Seoul, there's so many people interested in call, so many Kotisol people that
Down here
we
in
can do a
Busan
number of
too.
events. Yeah. Well, actually, how many people are in Busan? There's like 5 million, right? Yeah, I'm like Seoul-centric already, and I've only been living in Seoul 5 months. So yeah, practically, Chris Surridge Foundation is supporting that. These kind of workshops are the precursor to one way that will raise money, because they'll be user pays workshops, reasonably priced, but it'll be a way to generate income for the Chris Surridge Foundation and to generate membership for KOTISOL when we do joint events. So that's the beginning of something we're hoping to do in Canada as well at some point. Take a workshop tour around Canadian universities, and starting at Chris's former university, which is pronounced Guelph, I think, Guelph, which is hard to say if you're Australian and you've lived in Korea for a long time. It's like a one-syllable word with
And if
5
he's
different
wrong,
sounds.
Please feel free to comment. and correct him.
Guelph University. Yeah. So, and we one of the at a personal, professional kind of crossover sort of level, we've connected with Chris's ex-university colleagues and people he did the amazing things he did with when he was 20 and 21, and got them involved, and we're beginning a process of negotiation about how we'll move forward, and how prominent his name will be. And sometimes some of the things we do, we won't have the Chris Surridge Foundation in big banner headline, because there's going to be people using his stuff who don't really know who he was.
I never met Chris face to face. I know his online legacy. It's been really interesting to tune into the Facebook group and other online spaces where you have overlapping parts of his life connecting, and it's just left me thinking a lot about all of our online legacies. That these days it's not only the lives you touched, but it's the online presence you created, and the lives that you touch kind of keep interacting around that. And it's
actually, that's probably the fundamentally the thing that we've done the most in the beginning, and that I put a lot of energy into personally, is documenting this process, being at his memorial, documenting that, getting as many interviews with people as possible, and thanks to you as well for your support with that, getting stuff online, creating that sort of initial memory of this, uniting people together and creating this group of like 100 people in Korea and Canada, and there's an amazing person from Iran called Shab Mat, who I've never met, who's never even been to Korea, who almost came to KAIST at one point, and she's like best Facebook friends with Lucy, Chris's widow, and like was really close friends with Chris just through Facebook. Yeah. And she's a big part of the Chris Surridge Foundation, though she's never been to Korea. She's actually like in my top 10 Facebook friends. And this is all in the last month. And so this amazing sort of online community is sort of built up. And it's been a grieving community as well, in part. Celebrating Chris, but also grieving together and sharing that. And that's been a really amazing learning experience, I think, for a lot of us, that this is how these new technologies can be used.
Because
I think
many
Chris
of our
would like
connections
that.
as modern professionals are virtual connections. And that doesn't make them less real.
Exactly.
The loss is the loss, and the joys are the joys. And well, I should let you go to Paul's presentation. Thank you. We'll catch the video of your presentation at koreabridge.net/KOTISOL.
Thank you, everybody.
Until next time.